Several aspirants this morning turned up at the premises of Parliament to be nominated so that they can contest for the East African Legislative Assembly EALA seats to represent Uganda. Over 10 aspirants who turned up were duly nominated. Justice Forum aspirant Mohamed Katelega was also among the many nominated. Other candidates that have since confirmed to run include Kadogo Babide Veronica, Amongin Jacqueline, Julius Buchana, Muwonge Daniel, Fiona Randalugali, Chiriowa Stella, Chisembo Tendo, Muyenda Alan, Ambrose Mulangira, Patience Namara, among others. After the nominations, the candidates revealed their plans, hopes and aspirations if they are elected as representatives.
JEMA, we believe in African unity and regional cooperation. And this is one of the reasons why we have come out to translate this idea into practice.
My agenda is to advocate for a fund for infrastructure, physical infrastructure, which will help us as a region to ease the movement of goods and services at regional level. And secondly is to lobby investment in ICT to boost revenue mobilization for our countries.
We produce excess maize, we produce excess milk, we produce excess poultry products. All of these need to be marketed elsewhere because our population cannot absorb all the items and products that we produce.
According to the candidates, Ugandans are facing several challenges when it comes to accessing regional markets, exporting their goods to East African countries, among others.
Go to the East African Legislative Assembly when I'm voted to address issues in regards to gaps on trade, on climate change, on linking and bringing the community closer to the people, including promoting Kiswahili as a common language for the East African community.
First challenge that I'm going to work on the regional market. The East Africa community has a population of 200 million. And we must work together to make sure that the countries in the East African community, they trade with each other.
Julius Buchana, a journalist by profession, says it's high time that Uganda sends members who understand the concept of regional integration.
I believe I'm an asset to Uganda who needs to represent this country to a bloc like EAC. I've studied EAC, I've known about the liberation in EAC, most importantly the economic side and the political side. And I believe that this is a time for Uganda to be proud of the representatives it's sending to the EALA. And Julius Buchana being a journalist, just give a journalist a political position and see how knowledge flows.
The requirement for a person to contest for the East African Legislative Assembly include being a Ugandan citizen with an advanced level certificate of education. They also are required to pay the sum of 3 million shillings. The nomination will end tomorrow with a second group of aspirants going forward. Sarah Nakandi for CTV.
Well, time check is about 2 minutes past 8 o'clock in the morning. My name is Priva Elibaz. Welcome back from that short break. We do continue with the conversation on our Twitter jabs, and we are still talking the EALA nominations. That's the East African Legislative Assembly, and now we see that Uganda will nominate 9 representatives to the 5th Assembly of the East African Legislative Assembly. Out of these, 6 are already, ring-fenced for the NRM, 1 for the independent, and 2 for the opposition parties in Parliament. Of course, the process did kickstart off yesterday. It ends today at 5 p.m. But joining me at the center of this conversation today, this morning, is Mr. Julius Buchana, who is himself an aspirant for the EALA nominations and positions. Yes, good morning.
A very good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you so very much.
For starters, congratulations. How do you feel being a fully nominated aspirant or Uganda EALA representative for the 2022-2027 term?
I'm a Christian, and one of my spiritual leaders tells me that God does not choose the qualified. He qualifies those he has chosen. So I believe this is the time he has chosen me to be a sacrifice for this country, to go and represent it to that assembly. This assembly has had a lot of injuries. We've sent people. I don't want to say they've been half-baked, but this is the time for us to send people who have been credible, who have understood the region, who know the gymnastics, the politics of this region, so that Uganda can be one of the benchmarks of the countries that are there. Our president has been one of the people who is appreciated. I remember very well when he was going to Rwanda. There was a lot of relation amongst the citizens of Uganda and Rwanda across the border in Kabale crossing to Gatuna the other side. Recently in Kenya, when there was the inauguration of President Ruto, you saw what happened. So he's brought the vibe in the region. And us representing Uganda to the region, the vibe needs to stay. And I'm using the word vibe because this is the word that is being used right now to show appreciation and, enthusiasm to the citizens. So I believe that this is the time for us to send very authentic people to the assembly, because this is the assembly where we go for lobbying. It is almost a diplomatic deployment, but it needs a lot of lobbying, and you cannot lobby what you don't understand. This does not go away with the fact that you must be political. The political aspect is supposed to be within you, but the deployment comes with a lot of lobbying. It comes with a lot of integration issues, which you must understand before you go there. So I believe that the members of parliament, who are the electorates in this race, are supposed to be keen on who they are sending, because once you send somebody, you're going to take more 5 years to send another one. So don't do any other mistake to send somebody who is half-baked.
Well, how did you find the nominations process, and what's your take on the electoral process of EALA?
I believe that, yes, the nomination process, according to me, was smooth, because the advert from the Clerk of Parliament came out early, and you needed to have the preparations done before your nomination day. Choosing 2 days was quite tactful, because many people did not show up on day one, and it really showed that the political parties decided to come on day 2, which is 20th, which is today. And if you look at FDC, DP, UPC, and the NRM, and a few independents chose to take on the 20th, because they wanted to first get the news from us, who have been nominated on 19th. How is it done? What am I supposed to have?
Typical Ugandans.
But I believe the earliest bird catches the worm, and me being nominated on 19th, it has given me confidence. So I want to go and see how the others are going to be nominated today. The vibe they bring on board and everything. But most importantly is this exercise. Many people have, when you talk to members of parliament, who are the electorates, they talk about regional balance. But when you go to EALA, it's not all about the regions. It's about the knowledge somebody has for the region. It's about the integration issues, the political issues, the diplomacy issues, the economic issues that somebody brings on board at the floor of parliament for the assembly. So I believe that when we go regional, when we go tribal, when we go anything else from the purpose of why EALA is set, we as a country are going to send people we shall not be proud of. But I believe that having a quarter of the parliament and giving 6 slots to the most powerful party in the House, yes, it is a good idea, and then giving 1 to the independents and then 2 to the opposition. I believe that, yes, there is a petition in the East African Court of Justice by the NUP. They submitted to the Speaker of Parliament asking her to have a resolution put forward on the elections of the EALA, having all shades of opinions put into EALA, having at least 4 members of parliament from the ruling party, then all the other opposition parties plus the independents get the other slots, which are 5. And I believe that that petition was not considered up to today, because we're going into elections 8 days from now. So I believe that yes, there needed to be more of the consideration of all shades of the opinion. But most importantly as well, I believe that the time is now for us to understand that, yes, we have faced the Titan, and all is set for David to put down Goliath. And I hope that all the independents, I've had corridor talks, I've had diplomatic talks, people who have been following us on social media and at parliament, they believe that the independents who have come this time round are creme de la creme. And if all goes well, you'll find that more independents have gone to the EALA, and we shall see Uganda proud. I believe that Julius Buchana is part of them. I've not just been to this race just for day one. I've been campaigning for the last 1 year. And The Bible says, who prepares will be given the silver plate.
Yes.
So I believe that this is the time for me to represent my country. At a young age, I believe that we need such people. We need people like Julius Buchanan to go to that forefront and fight for this country beyond the borders. We do not want to have, one philosopher said, if you let the unqualified lead you, then you remain a fool, because you're qualified and you decided to stay humble. So let the unqualified lead you, and whatever they take you, please allow, because you gave them the chance. That is not what we want. We want to go to EALA and represent this country fully, and at a professional level. I'm studying my master's in international relations and diplomacy. That is absolutely one of the credits that I told the panel, that I'm not only coming with just the journalism aspect, but I'm a diplomat. I understand the relations of these countries. So I'm not bringing on board the journalism aspect of knowledge flow and knowing the region, but as well, you will appreciate my international relations knowledge, and as well the diplomacy, because it's a diplomatic deployment, which is embedded into politics.
Well, I like the fact that you spoke about the fact that you are a journalist. What exactly compelled you to have that feel or want to represent Uganda at the EALA?
Uganda has had a lot of representatives go to EALA ever since the inception, because one of the founding fathers of EALA, of East African Community, is President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
Yes.
And his zeal for this community is beyond normal. Everywhere he goes, he speaks about this community. And as we're shifting, because the discussion for the financial year 2022-2023 for EALA, for EAC, is economic integration.
Yes.
And once we talk about economic integration, they are also talking about East African Federation. The East African Federation is moved towards having one president, having
East
one
African
currency,
region,
and
yes,
having all the other things put together, and
yeah,
languages and everything. The adoption of Kiswahili is part of the East African Federation. I believe that as a journalist, I want to give you an example. These are not the very best, but at least they've put a landmark. They've shaken the parliament home here, which is called the home, the mother parliament. If you look at the member of parliament for Kira municipality, Honorable Ibrahim Semujunganda, he's a former journalist with the Observer. Look at the Honorable Betty Namboze Bachideke. He's a member of parliament. She's a member of parliament for Mukono municipality. Whatever they've done, it is felt. Not because they're just MPs, but they are beyond normal. They are journalists. And these are people who left a landmark in journalism. Yeah. And many more who are in parliament. There is one who is from Chibali. He was a radio presenter. He was a news anchor there. He's very, very sound mind in parliament. I don't want to say others are not. But give a journalist a political career and you see knowledge flow. I'm telling you.
You feel you're the fit person best for the job, just best of
Ask
having that
me
journalism
about
background.
EAC and I'll give you all the details that you want to know about EAC. We are not here to talk about our positions only. Even if God pleases not to give me this position. But I know that if I'm given this position, Uganda will be proud of me. There is nothing that I'm not going to do because I'm going to be there. You cannot sit on the dining table with God and fail to have the power to heal people.
Well, I'm proud of you already. But I like that in your earlier submissions, you talked about National Unity Platform, the NUP. They boycotted the EALA process. What are your thoughts on that?
NUP is the leading opposition political party in parliament. They hold the biggest office of the leader of opposition. I thought that because they had a unity with the opposition, the FDC, and the GEMA. I remember in the by-elections of Usongora and the by-elections of Gogonyo, they had this unity together, coming together and fronting one candidate. And this time around, the FDC has also a candidate in this race, Harold Kaija, who is the Deputy Secretary General for the party. And I believed that, yes, they may have boycotted the EALA process, but allowed to vote for the unity of their opposition. Because this is the time the opposition now needs to come out. Even if the road seems blurry, there needs to be at least a fight put close. The FDC came out and said, of course, we are supposed to engage in the electoral process. Let's front a candidate. And I thought that the opposition, the leading opposition in parliament, which is the NUP, would come out and say, you know what, we're going to front, we're going to back up our own people in the fight, of the struggle, who is FDC, and we go ahead and support him. I believe that most of, according to Intel, I believe that most of the NUP MPs also support other MPs. So I believe they had a resolution to vote, but not to front the candidates. And come 29th, we hope that most of the NUP candidates, members of parliament, who will vote.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about this being the 5th EALA race. The 4 previous assemblies, do you think Uganda has actually benefited from those representatives that we sent to the East African Legislative Assembly?
You own a passport?
Yes.
Does it have the word East African passport?
Not yet.
Not yet. It's supposed to have one.
Yes, it's supposed to upgrade, yes.
That is one of the achievements I want to tell you about. Uganda as a party, as a country, has forever embraced all the resolutions, some of the resolutions of the summit of the East African Community, which is the meeting that brings together all the heads of states. But most importantly, this passport has helped many Ugandans, because the new improved passport, the East African passport, has a chip, has an iris detection, has your thumbprints.
Yes.
The older version had different initials. Why East African? Because if you look at Kenya, Kenya is adopting the same, but Uganda is the first to adopt this. Tanzania is doing the same. Rwanda is doing the same. They want East Africa to have the same passport. And the one visa point also protocol is also being put in place. You will not need a visa to travel to all these countries. You only need one East African visa so that you can travel the 7 member states. The next thing is about the national ID. Yes. You may not have the passport, but you can travel to Rwanda with a national ID, and you enter Rwanda even through the plane, both on land and in air. You can use the same document. So I believe it's an achievement in the 4 terms that the assemblies that Uganda has had in the EALA. But most importantly as well, the common market protocol. Uganda has always had debacles with Kenya. Remember very well, the Kenya blocked the maize, the milk, the meat, the eggs to cross over to their country. But Uganda made a petition and said, do you want us to revert the same? Do you want to feel our pinch as well? Can we stop your milk from coming this side? And I want to give you a test. If you went to the supermarkets today, all the fridges, the grocery side are having things from Kenya. The juice from Kenya. So I believe that yes, they talked about our maize having aflatoxins and everything, but they needed to be the integration aspect. These member states, their heads of state, have embraced very fully the political integration. They look lovely when they are together. 7 of them seated together. You will see East African community flourishing the next day, but let them leave those seats. The economic integration has been left on paper. Its implementation has been put on the egos of these member states, heads of state. Yes. So I believe that, yes, as I go to EALA, we need to emphasize, we need to legislate more about the economic integration. And that's something that many Ugandans need to embrace right now. I remember very well that when the economic integration is put aside, now the East African community has about 380 million population right now. Yes. This population is going to have a very huge impact on trade. If any Ugandan is manufacturing candles, if I may say so, or maybe is selling matchbox, you may find that if they are to sell to each of the members in these member states, the 7 of them, you can imagine how much they're going to earn. I come from the part of the country which is Kisoro, where they grow Irish and cabbage. If the market for Irish is taken to Congo, is taken to Burundi, which is near there, is taken to Rwanda, trust me, a farmer who is in Kisoro will earn more money if there is free movement of goods and services. A lawyer right now in Uganda cannot cross to Kenya and start immediately to work. He's given some grace period for them to stay in the country, and then some bureaucracy and all that. But remember, we are in the integration. There needs to be free movement of services and labor. There are many Kenyans who are working here, and they have started jobs even the next day. But a Ugandan going to Kenya, there is a lot of debacle, there's a bureaucracy put aside. So I believe that, yes, we've embraced the we've embraced the political integration, but there needs to be a lot of emphasized and strengthened and widened economic integration. And that's the gist of why the founding fathers of the EAC put it up. The Musevenis and the others thought that when a good is produced in Uganda, when the product is produced in Uganda and taken to the other side of the border, there needs to be a very good reception, and the other way around. But it's become an ego of play. The cards are now changing, and I believe the legislation is supposed to change now. Yes. The political side, we give a hand clap to them. They've tried to make sure the region is somehow coordinating politically, but the economic side, we still want to have the GDPs of these countries raise up.
Well, Mr. Buchana, we see that the NRM SEC decided to retain their 6 outgoing EALA representatives. And in his words, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni actually said that they will support the other 3 from friendly opposition parties and the friendly independent, excluding the Forum for Democratic Change. What are your thoughts?
NRM has the biggest numbers of legislators in the parliament, 326.
Yes.
That's almost half, even beyond the half of the numbers of members of parliament, which about 529. This race is about numbers. I don't want to run away from the fact that this race is about the numbers. And once you understand that gymnastic, then you ought to understand and appreciate why NRM is doing that.
Yes.
But most importantly, the Speaker of Parliament before the caucus came out and ruled and said, it's only answered right now, that we're going to choose the best 9. By history, Anita Mong, Honorable Anita Mong, Right Honorable Anita Mong, is a victim of fraud of EALA elections. So she came out wholeheartedly. I keep on watching this clip. She came out and said, I'm not going to tolerate anything related to EALA fraud. I'm going to choose the best 9. That is something that keeps on blinking into my eyes and pumping my heart each and every day to wake up and go concretize my vote.
Yes.
Choosing the best 6. I mean, choosing 6 and ring fence. I don't want to run away from the fact that NRM did that. It is now evident. But the powers remain in the hands of the members of parliament.
The biggest, the largest number.
Members of parliament did say that, most of them did say that they don't appreciate them not being given the right to exercise as members of the NRM. They ought to be asked to choose their very best. Because Tevaina Balo is, in other words.
Oh, yes.
They believe that they are just goats that were told, go and vote this. And most of them want to run away from that. They want to vote who they think is capable. And that is very, very important to me, because once we send capable people there, Uganda is going to be super proud of them. But if we send people according to our impulsive political blood flow, we're going to find that we're sending people. I'm not saying those who are there are half-baked. No. I want to understand that those who are there, yes, have done some work. But now is the time for the members of parliament to zoom through. Let's get the achievements of these people. What have they done so far? Is it tangible? If it's not tangible, can we have a replacement? Yes, the ruling party is supposed to have a quarter of the members sent. But should we have these members sent there just because they're NRM? Can we send people who are not just a political party impulsive member, but send people who are going to stand firm on the issues of integration and ascertain and shake the region politically? Because this deployment really favors one's country. And when you cross the border and go to EALA, you're not representing any party. They say Julius Buchana from Uganda.
Oh, yes.
And that's very important. So I believe this is the time for us to send credible people.
Credible people. Do you think you've been a bit compromised by the process of the predetermined 6 slots and leaving the other 3 to the opposition and independents to just fight over?
I didn't get the first sentence.
Yes. Do you feel like this whole process has compromised your chances of actually getting the position of the EALA? The EALA, I beg your pardon.
The treaty says representation, and not the, how can I call it? If they talk about representation, they mean you're sending people to represent the country. It talks about gender, it talks about political shade, it talks about special interest groups, it talks about and some aspect right there. But me as a person who has stood on independence, I believe my genesis of independence started way back at the university. I'm a former guild president of Nkumba University. And I stood at independence right there. And I won the election with the FDC and the NRM on the same race. I love the fact that an independent politician has the open mind. They clap for what is good and they frown for what is bad. Right. And that is me. I will speak about what is good if it is good. I'll speak about what is bad if it's not appealing. So that is why I came on to the independent. But most importantly, I'm not sidelined. The independents have a slot. The independents have a slot. And what may come out of this election, I'm not a prophet of doom, yes, but we might have more than 3 members of parliament from the independent side.
I love that.
We might have more than 1. So I believe that my energies have not been in vain. I've reported at Parliament for quite some time. Members of Parliament have appreciated my journalism skills, and they believe that I'm the best option for this election, and waiting for 29th to happen.
Come next week, yes. Well, Mr. Frank Gashumba has been pro and, you know, partial to your EALA. Jan, even during the nominations, he was right behind you. In what capacity is he on your team?
Frank Gashumba is very well known for supporting the youth. If you know Sisimuka, Uganda, where Nabukeda was being burnt years ago, he stood out and appreciated the fact that this girl needed help. When I approached him, we well know that he's a political analyst. He believes in the power of numbers. He specs where need be. So when I approached him and asked him to be part of my strategic team, he allowed. There is a way people look at Frank Gashumba, which is not me. I look at his strength and not his weaknesses. And I want to appreciate his strength, because today, if many people are calling me, asking me why he was behind me, meaning there is a power in him, why they are asking me why I came with him for nomination. So Mr. Frank Gashumba is my strategic campaigner. He really makes me have conversations with people who are strategic in this election, and I appreciate his energies. And moving forward, if all this goes to our side, he will be part of the people to celebrate with, and I believe that people will appreciate why he was on the team. Some other candidate wanted him, but he decided, but he decided to come with me, and be on my side for all this long. So I believe that people should look at him in the manner of a mobilizer, more than what they think he is. I don't know what they think he is, but according to me, I look at his strength in this election than any other thing.
So well, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about your manifesto. What are some of those things on your to-do list once you succeed?
My manifesto has close to 5 points, but the most important of it all is economic integration. Uganda and East Africa, according to the founding fathers, were supposed to have, we used to have here East African industries. This is one of the things I didn't want to say on air because it's one of my benchmarks. But the East African industries collapsed. But you know very well that Uganda produces in excess in some of the things. And if we had the East African, because that's when you have the bargaining power. These industries to have the bargaining power. You bring together your Irish, you bring together your tomatoes, you bring together your onions, and they get market elsewhere, broader market elsewhere, because it is a block. But today, farmers even look for markets and they don't find it. Because even crossing the borders with these goods, the protocols at the border, the levies are too much. That's what I talked about earlier. The economic integration of the EAC is beginning to loosen up a bit. The moment we start not seeing people take out goods in the country, they're going to lose market right here. They will get less than what they invested in. And the most important is the numbers of the population of the EAC is growing each and every day. And these numbers are supposed to be appreciated by the products that we produce as a block. And when you look at the COMESA, when you look at the SADC, when you look at the EAC, they look for market as a block. They don't look for market as a single particular country or nation. And that has broadened their gross domestic product in terms of numbers. So I believe for the EAC to flourish, there needs to be a block that is going to look for the market of their products in huge numbers. They can, because I have a friend who is in the US. He went to look for a market of onions, the red ring onions. And he was told, can you supply this restaurant 4 tons in a month? He came back home and looked for a farmer to do that. The farmer was there. He got almost a village of farmers doing that in Kabale. But the levies put aside for him to do that, to take them to the States, was almost twice the money he invested. So he couldn't. But I believe that if we had the block come together and he bought these in bulk and sent them, that would be a very good idea, and he will get more money because he's using a block. Because once you buy in bulk, the numbers of the money is also decreased. So I believe that the block needs to come out again and stand firm on the East African industries, on on every product. Because this is a time for us now to understand that we need to appreciate, and for this block to flourish, economics is the first business. We need to make business the politics of the block. and not politics the business of the bloc. Yes.
Absolutely beautiful. Let's talk about your journalism career. If you make it to the East African Legislative Assembly, what happens? Are we seeing the last of Julius Buchana when it comes to journalism?
Absolutely not. When you look at lawyers who are in the 11th Parliament, they still go to their chambers and do their work. The businessmen, the teachers still teach. Honorable Sewungu is a teacher. He still goes to class and lecture. He studied law recently and he's an advocate right now. The athletics are still doing the same. The accountants, they still hold their firms. So why would I leave the journalism career? Probably I will invest in journalism and media after going there, because I believe that growth of media is the growth of a nation. Many of the first world-class countries call it a fourth estate. Here in Uganda, we're just battled. But I believe that when I go there, I'll still be a journalist who will be vocal in issues favoring Uganda. And of course, they must ask, are you a journalist? And I'll have to say so, because this is the only chance I have for me to say Ugandan journalists can even be better, not only here, but even on the regional level. And being part of a diplomat, I believe the two coupled is quite a good combination.
Okay, so as we wrap up, any final remarks or a special message you want to give out there to Ugandans who are at least following the East African Legislative Assembly nominations and the whole process?
You have a chance for you to tell your member of parliament to choose for the best person who's going to favor and make Uganda proud in the East African Legislative Assembly. This assembly is not all about the money you've invested in the campaigns, because many people have flashed money in this. People have injected a lot of millions of money. I don't know how much I've put in it, but it's not even close to $1 million. Yes, besides the nomination fee, which was 3 million.
3 million, yes.
So I believe my credibility is all about the content we're taking there. The lobbying skills, knowing the region, the politics, the economic integration, the political integration, and knowing what makes EAC stand out and what is going to make Uganda hold the flag high for itself in that assembly. So I believe Julius Buchana is the best candidate for the independent slot. And most importantly, he's a journalist. You need to understand that we shall not stand anywhere and the microphone comes and we shy away. We shall speak to that which is good for the EAC, and we shall put a stop to that which is bad for the EAC as Ugandans who will be representing our nation, which the colonialists called the Pearl of Africa. And that's very, very important for me. I believe 29th of September 2022 is going to open up a door. I continue saying that let's make business the politics of the EAC and not politics the business of the
bloc.
EAC.
Yes. Well, any message to Parliament as they're in charge of the electoral process when it comes to the EALA?
I want to say thumbs up for the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among, for the wonderful legislation you're doing for this country, as well as your Deputy Thomas Tayewa. I believe that this combination is good for the legislation of, and also because she's going to be the presiding officer for that day as the voting is taking place. So once she stands again, because we're waiting for that as well, when she stands again on her 2 feet and says, I'm still standing for the best 9, I believe Uganda is going to appreciate the electoral process of the East African Legislative Assembly in Uganda. But as all this goes on, I want to encourage members of parliament to also stand firm and choose those they think are right for this position, not going regional, not going tribal, because we shall choose half-baked people because we want to have impulsive decisions. These will affect us in the long run. And Julius Buchana, the hashtag is ready to serve.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on today's show. I appreciate the efforts and the chance you've given me to come and deliberate on a beautiful television like this. And I want to tell Ugandans, don't blink. Absolutely. Well, we are rooting for you, and we hope come next week on the Thursday, 28th of September 2022, you're able to, clinch that spot at the East African Legislative Assembly. 29th, not 28th. Oh, it's 29th, yes. Thank you for correcting that. Well, I've been sitting down with Mr. Julius Buchana, who is also an aspirant for the nominations that are currently going on when it comes to the East African Legislative Assembly. He had so much to share. His manifesto is really interesting. He talked about industrialization as, something that we need to focus on as East African states, so that we can push at least, we can better our lives as, Ugandans in this particular economy. Well, the conversation continues on our social media platforms, that is Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at CTV Uganda. Let us know what you think about the East African the East Africa Legislative Assembly nominations as they are going on. And do not forget, they end today. Yes, the process ends today at 5 p.m. So if you're an aspirant there and you think you are fit for this job, please head over to Parliament with your 3 million shillings and yeah, you'll be nominated. Well, that's all I had for you this morning. Coming up is our views.